The following is an excerpt from the According to Metal podcast. That was Crashing Waves from Imminent Sonic Destruction off of their most recent album, Triumphia. Of course, if you are an According to Metalhead, you've probably recognized that name, or at least should have if you're paying attention, because on the last episode of the show, we had Tony Piccoli from Imminent Sonic Destruction on the show to talk to us about this album, and now here it is for us to listen to. And again, later on in the broadcast, we saw him live and in concert, so we'll get to share with you our thoughts on that. And it just so happens, on the night we saw them live in Chicago was also the night this album was officially released. And what an album it is. Really, really impressed. If you heard our interview last week, you knew that we were fans of Recurring Themes. We thought it was a great album. And, you know, Tony had kind of said, well, we are who we are as a band. So the sound you've come to like and expect from us, you'll continue to hear on this one. But to quote Tony, I think you'll dig it. Well, Tony, you're right. We certainly do. Biv, I know that you especially really were impressed with Triumphia in our brief conversation we've had about it. And especially we got to see, 4 or 5 tracks off the album performed in front of us live. And so, you know, let's just get right to it, Biv. What did you think of Triumphia, man?
Man, first of all, their first CD was really kind of what put them on the map for me. And when I heard it, I was like, you know, these guys really are a very nice progressive metal act that has potential. Now, I didn't expect that potential to be realized. You know, oftentimes it takes 3, 4, even 5 albums to get to a point where you go, you know what, they've arrived. Well, with Triumphia, they've arrived on their second CD. Now, I'm not saying that because we saw them live. I'm not saying it because we got to meet them. All that's fine and good. But this CD, from the Crashing Waves, Something in the Way, The Fog, those are the first 3 tracks. Sleepless is good. Arbor is Calm might be, in fact, I'm going to say, is the best song on the CD.
Oh, yeah.
Man, what a beautiful song that is. So there's only 7 tracks on the CD because in typical progressive metal, you know, format, they're each like 14 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, Arborist Calm is 22 minutes. You know,
right.
I mean, it's a long track.
So that being said, there's just 5 of the 7 I love. Now, the Lake of Fire and the Knife are good, but they're not great to me. Now, I know those are, you know, supposed to be, especially the Knife. I think it might be their next single coming off of this. I know Tony was really high on that track.
Nice! I hope that's the case. I'll expound on that in my portion of the review. But anyway, go ahead.
For me, they just weren't there. Now, Arborist Calm, to me, was like, that's the pinnacle. I mean, that's... What if you need to just like shut off this broadcast and go listen to the Arborist Calm right now? Just, it's phenomenal. But this whole CD from top to bottom is very good. And I gave it, and I told Tony this when I saw him at the show. I haven't told you this yet. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. And I'm putting it up for Album of the Year in the Progressive Metal category.
Well, I don't disagree with much of anything you said there, which is sometimes rare for us. I will say that Full disclosure, Biv, especially after Recurring Themes, was definitely more of an ISD fan than I was. I thought they were good. I thought it was a good album. And, hey, a lot of times bands' first album is the stuff they've been working on for years. And so a lot of times it ends up being a band, or, for many bands, sometimes what many fans consider to be their best stuff. And especially when you have the second album, and say what you want, but, there's that whole worry of the sophomore slump, and are you going to write stuff as good as you did the second time around, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, folks, let me put your mind to rest right now. Imminent Sonic Destruction does not fall into the sophomore slump category with their second album. Triumphia, in every respects, is better than Recurring Themes. Just period. It's better writing. It's better vocals. It's just they sound tighter as a band. You can also hear that, and I want to say this in the right way, to me, Recurring Themes, and this is not a bad thing because Tony's incredibly talented, but Recurring Themes to me, and this makes sense based on the interview we had with him last week, kind of sounded like the Tony Piccoli show with some other members of the band kind of helping out type of thing. Triumphia to me sounds like a band involved album. Like there are, every single member has their own contribution to the writing and the sound of this band, or to this album, and you can totally hear that and see that. And to your point, Biv, I mean, granted, Arborist Calm is the final track on the album. It's 22 minutes long. It is one of the better songs I've heard all year. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that, but there's no way in hell you can make that a single. It's 22 minutes. I mean, the fog as it is a tough one to pull off. And yeah, they were able to do that because the fog, I think, is like 9 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. So, I mean, it's a long track as well. But yeah, you're talking 7 songs of the album. Of course, you just heard The Crashing Waves, which is a great song. Something in the Way is a good track. The Fog, of course, you heard last week, which is a really good, and I will agree with Tony that if you want to get an idea of what Imminent Sonic Destruction sounds like, The Fog's a good place to start. Don't get me wrong. Lake of Fire I actually really like also. Here's the thing, and I know that this is where we'll differ on this one. You like Sleepless quite a bit. I don't. I think of all the songs on the album, Sleepless to me kind of falls flat. And I know Tony was really excited about that one because there's a lot of, like 3-part vocal harmonies on it. To me, it's just, later on in the track, I kind of dig it. But, for me, it's the one that kind of misses on the album. Whereas you feel that The Knife is, where I think The Knife freaking rocks. And I said this in the interview with Tony last week, and I'll say it again. When their write-up about their sound is, we're progressive metal, but we also borrow a lot from, kind of the Meshuggah strapping young lad type sound, which there's a strapping young lad plug for David Townsend, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. You hear that in a description and you go, okay, well, let me see what that sounds like. And The Knife is a great example of a track that for the first 30 seconds sounds like a Nevermore track. And then it is flat out Meshuggah for the next minute and a half. And it just, just kind of an off-time heavy, progressive, math metal as some people like to call it. Just really, really chunky, off-time riffs that just are really, really cool. And they're definitely more up my alley than Biv's. So I understand why The Knife may not be as much of a accessible track to Biv as it is me. Maybe it's more of the heavier, metal sound to it that I like more so than say an Arborist Calm, which, when you listen to that track, I mean, you talk about especially the keys of a very Biv, and you kind of hit this right on the head, and I don't want to steal your thunder because we did talk about this on the way back from the show. Like a very 70s Styx-like sound to the keys in the beginning of Arborist Calm. And I'm not talking on the beginning, I'm talking like the first 5 minutes of the track.
7.5 minutes, was if you don't listen to that and get Styx, and I'm talking like mid-70s Styx.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Not Mr. Roboto.
No, not Mr. Roboto, but if you don't get Sweet Madam Blue out of that, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I mean, you're dead on with that.
and I played that for you in the car because I wanted you to hear the first couple minutes of that, and then hear the first couple minutes of Arborist Calm. And when you heard it, right away you were like, "Dude, you're right."
Yeah,
And that's
no, you're spot on.
anything away from it. That's look, if you can pay homage to what I consider to be one of the greatest progressive rock bands ever, that really opened up the world to the possibility of a progressive metal, it sticks.
Yeah, especially their 70s stuff,
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's the thing to me that I took away from it, is just an entirely different sounding song than the rest of the album, and that's not a bad or good thing, because the rest of the album's good too, but this just, I'm telling you, if you can figure out how to write that kind of level material the next time around, Tony, granted, you don't have to make them all 22 minutes, but Arborist Calm, dude, A+ work. Just a really solid album. And if you're a progressive metal fan, and let's be honest, if you're an According to Metal listener and According to Metalhead, then you probably are, because we seem to lean, especially Biv, more towards the progressive metal side of what we review and what we're really, really into. But I'm here to tell you, man, just a step up in musicianship on every level of Triumphia over recurring themes.
Which, by the way, is saying a lot, because recurring themes was not a bad album.
No, not at all. No, not by all means, not at all. Not quite as high as Biv on this one, but I'm really, really close. I actually have an 8.5 out of 10 on this one. And I'll also say this in regards to this album. And you'll hear this later on in the broadcast probably too when we talk about it. I mean, it's one thing to like a band and listen to a band, and I'm just here to say the best thing about what we do is I get, just from a personal standpoint, I get to every couple of weeks get behind a microphone and talk metal with my friend Scott. And then on top of that, we also get to talk to some amazing musicians that end up are not only just incredibly talented, but are just cool dudes. And I will put Tony Piccoli right up there with some of the cooler guys we've ever had on the show. That is somebody I, at this point, maybe right up there with Kim Olsen from Anubiscade, probably in my world, of all the people we've had on the show, of just being one of the more genuinely nice and just cool dudes we've ever talked to. And to get a chance to meet him in Chicago, and get a chance to meet the band, and get a chance to, check them out at the merch table and just see them do what they do live, it really even makes it even a better experience. So I know they don't tour a lot, and that shouldn't surprise you, the way we've talked about how hard that is for metal bands to even try to financially pull off nowadays. But if for some reason you get a chance to, and Imminent Sonic Destruction comes through your neighborhood, or God damn, if you're in Michigan and they are around you in the local scene, if they're playing, dude, check them out. Seriously, they are a band you have to get. And by the way, visit their website, because they are a band that has figured out a way to do merch very, very well. They're very crafty at what they do. It's affordable merch too. It's not like insanely expensive. And it's just really cool. And by the way, Tony and Imminent Sonic Destruction, if you're listening, my 8-year-old son is using the flash drive I bought from the concert, courtesy of Imminent Sonic Destruction. So you'll be happy to know that my 8-year-old is rocking out to some ISD. With the track that you put on the on the flash drive that I got. Sweet. No, I swear to God, Lucas, it was just so funny. And I was telling him at the merch table, this is a true story. So the day of the concert, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but the day of the concert, there was a letter sent home of, hey, your kids need to bring the following things that we didn't include in the school supplies that you need to buy, and they're going to need it eventually, so you may as well pick it up thing. And one of them was a flash drive, because they're going to be going to computer lab and doing some stuff. And I swear to you, as I walk in and I see at the merch table, they have an Imminent Sonic Destruction flash drive. And I went, yep, done, sold. So I think I needed to buy one anyway, and it worked out perfectly. So just great dudes, great album, Triumphia. Like Biv said, we won't be offended. Listen to DGM, because of course we talked about them earlier. But then before you listen to DGM, because you can wait on that one, listen to Arborist Calm from Triumphia right now. Seriously, right now. Pause. we'll wait.
That might be the metal track of the year.